Suppose you want to deploy the e-commerce application in production environment, how you will design a three-tier architectural setup. So let's see that. So for this e-commerce application, I will divide the architecture into three major tiers: presentation tier, application tier, and data tier. And I would also add the required security monitoring and management services around it. So let's start with the presentation tier. The user request first reaches Amazon Route 53, which handles the DNS resolution. Then comes CloudFront, which will act as a CDN to deliver content with low latency. And then we have our front end, that is the Amazon S3 bucket. That is where a static website will be hosted, which will include HTML files, CSS files, JavaScript, images, and other static content. Now, when the user performs an action like searching for a product or adding an item to the cart, the request needs to reach our backend. That is where the application load balancer comes into the picture. It will distribute the incoming request across multiple EC2 instances. These EC2 instances are managed by an auto scaling group, so the application can automatically scale based on the traffic. And then we will deploy them across multiple availability zones for high availability. Now the last tier is the data tier, which includes different storage services like Amazon Aurora, where you can store transactional data such as users, products, orders, and payment section. You can also use ElastiCache with Redis, that will help you to store frequently accessed data, and it will reduce the load on your databases as well. Or you can use Amazon S3 as well to store the data, or MySQL database as well. So this completes your three tiers, right? But in the production environment, we also need security and monitoring. So for that purpose, we will be using different AWS services like AWS WAF, which will help us to protect from the DDoS attack, CloudWatch, which helps us to provide the monitoring metrics and alarms, CloudTrail, which will track the API activity, AWS Inspector, which will help to identify the vulnerabilities, KMS, which will provide encryption and key management. This architecture gives us kind of high availability, scalability, performance, and security. So this is how I will explain the solution in my interview.